Alright, hello YouTube. Welcome back to my shop. It is December. It is nice and brisk, cold, single digits today. It's probably the coldest day we've had all year, so this is awesome in my wonderfully not very heated shop. Today we are marking the beginning of a new series on my channel. Well, it's my first series on my channel, and I really hope you guys enjoy this. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to get some good out of this series and are really going to enjoy seeing what I did here. Today we got the silver bullet back in the shop, and we are doing the P-pump swap on this thing. So stay tuned. There's going to be quite a few episodes to this series, and check out how I did it. This is my take on a P-pump swap. I'm not trying to drag race this thing. I'm not trying to go for world record horsepower or anything. I really just need a truck that pulls my trailer and doesn't have any issues doing it, and does it reliably and without any issues. Even if I do have some breakdowns along the way, like I know it'll always get home. The VP44 pump, the biggest concern I've always had with it is they have a tendency that they run great until they don't, and then when they don't, you're calling a tow truck and putting the thing on a hook and hauling it home, because there's just not a lot you can do because the electronics in them fail, and you can't fix that on the side of the road. P-pump, I can fix pretty much anything on the side of the road, and it just about is always going to at least pump fuel. May not pump it right, but it's going to always pump some fuel. So, and that's really all you need in diesel to make it run. Air and fuel, and they pretty much just run. So that part's going to be pretty awesome. Stay tuned, and I really hope you guys enjoy this. And like, comment, and subscribe, and help me get this channel off the ground and moving forward. So here we are. It's all front of the truck's off anyway. Haven't done a whole lot else. Injection system's still together. It still runs. I just did a separate video. I'm going to try to sell that injection pump, maybe make enough money to pay for this endeavor. So I think at this point I'm going to leave it as it sits. I got to go to Rocky Mountain Cummins hopefully tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving today, so I'm really hoping they're open tomorrow, because my stupid self didn't plan ahead and get gaskets before the weekend, because I never think about that kind of stuff. But like I need to get a water pump. It's got a little play in it here. It's actually not that old, but I don't know, whatever. Harmonic balancer, it's not in the greatest shape. I'm hoping my 12 valve one works. I have no idea. We'll find out. So I don't really want to buy one of those. Probably not cheap. Other than that, I think it's just going to sit here for a while, and we're gonna yeah. That's surprise, we're up here. This is the donor motor. This is, I guess, the next step in the process. We're gonna get all the parts and pieces off of this old girl. She's been sitting up here in my upper bay now for several years, collecting dust. I pull off parts here and there every once in a while. Pulled the return lines off of it for the Blue Bomber, and I think the water pump went into the Blue Bomber at one point in time. Or it's the water pump that's in this truck, actually. It might be. No, I think that water pump went in the Blue Bomber at one point. But yeah, no, we're going to get this thing all tore down, and I got to get the whole front cover off of it. Obviously, all that's got to come off. The cam has to come out, because I need this cam. This cam is a aftermarket cam that I put in this motor, I don't know, a year before this thing cracked. This is why this thing's sitting in here, is it cracked. And we attempted to fix, but as with most things with cast, it just didn't go too well. So, yeah, it is what it is. You can see the fixie plug from part of the repairs, and then there's some JB Weld smooched all over the place, and yeah, it just didn't go too well. So yeah, we gotta get all this stuff has to come off. Obviously, this guy has to come off. I don't think I used this on the new setup. Let's see. Obviously, good old-fashioned P-pump here. There's some lines and stuff. I will be using the, get my hand down here far enough you can see it, the mechanical lift pump. I'm swapping that over. I'm going to run mechanical. And there's a provision on my block, pretty sure. Don't really remember. I know I looked a long time ago, but there is one. We thought we could see it. It's really hard to see back in here on the 24 valve. But the cam doesn't have the lobe on it. But doing a cam swap, I will get that lobe. So all this stuff comes out, goes over. There's some bracketry in here I need. Two things like that. Obviously, I need this return line. I might change and put the 12 valve filter on it. I might not. I don't know. I'll figure out that piece when I get there. This is going to get moved over. This is for my old gauge setup. I still have the gauge cluster and would really like to put it in this truck, so this is going to get moved over and put on this setup. One thing I am going to have to come up with a solution for is the air horn doesn't clear on the 12 or on the 24 valve the injection lines. So I'm probably going to have to go down to my buddy's house and mill out a little spacer that goes in here, is my guess of what I'm going to have to do to fix that. Doesn't look like the 12 valve version comes apart to transfer over, so that's going to be kind of fun. And of course I'll have to extend the tube here a little bit to make up for that added space. So anyway, I'm gonna turn this thing off and get to spinning some bolts and get this thing tore down. Alright, I'm back. I wanted to, working on the donor motor here, and I wanted to show you guys what I'm doing here with the cam. It's time to pull the cam out of this thing and get it ready to go into the other motor so I can start tearing the other motor apart so I can put all this together. It's going to be awesome. I want to show you guys a couple things. I know I've seen some of the YouTube world, you know, obviously like anybody who's ever pulled a cam out on these Cummins knows that you have to hold up the tappets with something, and typically that's done with a 1/2-inch dowel. Just want to, I thought I'd throw this out there, like a lot of the YouTube-y stuff I've seen. One of the biggest things I've noticed with that is they all talk about, just take a 1/2-inch dowel and jam it down in there. That's, yes, the 1/2-inch dowel is the right size. It does fit down in there. Don't take a hammer and pound it down in there. Here's my dowels, cut to length. Put a slot in there. See how there's a, right here, there's a cut. Trying to kind of get, you can see that cut there. That allows this thing to squish in a little bit. And it won't leave wood filings inside of your motor. Those guys who just take these things and pound them down in there with a hammer, you know, they're inducing contaminants into their engine unless they're, you know, unless you're taking the thing apart, and especially if you do that, you especially have to take the tappet cover off so that you can get in there with brake cleaner and try to get all that out of there. But yeah, just don't do that. It takes 2 seconds. I mean, I did it on my bandsaw. You know, on that guy right there, took me like all of 2 seconds. And yes, I know it's not a wood bandsaw, but you know it works great on this soft wood like this. So if you don't have a bandsaw, you know, I've even done it with a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder. It makes, kind of wants to catch the wood on fire, but it's okay. It gets the job done, and it won't catch the wood on fire, even though it smells like it. So just take that extra effort. It takes a little bit more time, and the fit of these things is way better. It's easier to put it all together, and you're not putting dirt into your engine. Also, make sure you, and I haven't really done it yet, but make sure you kind of make sure there's no loose material hanging out on this thing on either end, you know, either one of your cut-ins, because you don't want that stuff falling down in there either. This motor, don't really care. It's, you know, it's a Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how I do this, and I was going to see these little rubber bands and stuff in here. I was goofing around yesterday. I didn't have the dowels, and it was Thanksgiving, and nobody was open, so I was messing around with this to see if I could make it work. It didn't work. It does work, but it doesn't work, if that makes any sense to you guys. So we're going to pop these little guys out of here, throw all this on the floor, because I don't really care. It's just a piece of scrap. We're trying to make things work. And we're going to pray this back tappet doesn't fall into the motor, because it's kind of not supported very well by anything. And the technique I'm going to try, I've never done before. Usually I drill a hole in these things and put a cotter key into them, and then I know they can't fall down. But I'm going to try it with rubber bands, because, you know, why not? So basically, this little guy just goes down in there, give it a hard push, and you feel it slide in. Now that's nice and well attached to that. You know, I can pull up pretty hard on that, it doesn't go anywhere. And we're just going to rinse and repeat. Come down here. And like you don't have to pull this tappet cover off. It does make it easier, but you don't have to. All these have to get pulled up with this method. This is also another reason I was trying to do it with the pieces of wire loom, because you know, it just saved me the step of taking these totally off of the motor and then having to put them all back onto the motor. I didn't want to do that, but I'm going to have to. So it is what it is. Oh well. And just like that, YouTube magic, they're all in. So from here, we just take this rubber band, we're going to stick it down on here. I doubled it up, and we're just going to lift up on these and get them up out of the bore. Obviously, we don't want to lift up so hard that it pulls it out of the tappet. And this is just a rubber band, you know, yay big, give or take. I don't know, I had a whole pack of them I bought for, I needed like a rubber band one time, so I bought a whole pack, because that's the only way you can buy rubber bands. And, you know, now, because I'm cheap, I'm always trying to find a way to use these rubber bands up, so I don't have any more stupid rubber bands anymore. Honestly, I hate rubber bands. And the bag of rubber bands is right behind the camera, of course. One thing to keep in mind with these bungees on here, it's putting some side load on the tappets, so they don't want to lift up all the way. So you just got to keep that in mind. So I was kind of twisting it just a little bit, trying to make sure they're all the way up. Because if any one of those things down a little bit, you ain't getting this cam out, which is why I had to give up, because on my other plan, the tappet was hitting the cam just a little. Alright, today I want to talk to you guys about one key component of doing the cam swaps on these motors. So we already talked about the dowel pins and how we stuff those in the tappets, like so, to hold the tappets up. Use little rubber bands, you know, and that allows us to get this cam out of here. One thing to just keep in mind is the cam does need to be in line with the crankshaft here in order to get the cam out. Components, rotating components inside there do get really close to that cam and will prevent you from removing it if you do not align everything properly. Now the next step in this process, since I am moving this cam to the other motor over there, I need the tappets out of this thing. Well, you know, because you don't really want to, it's not a good idea to change cams to a different tappet that they haven't worn on. It's just not real smart. I don't know. I would say it's debatable whether or not they'll actually fail or not. Be an interesting experiment, kind of an expensive one. Regardless, I'm going to swap these. Now, the question being, I'm going to do this on both engines. This one, hey, you know what, if one of them drops and they go down into the big lake of nasty black goo down there, you know, I can clear the mess and bring the tractor in, and I can lift everything up and get the pan off and, you know, get all my tappets out of there. I could flip it upside down if I wanted to, you know. This one, not such a big deal. That one is in the truck. I am not taking that out. So, ask yourself, how are we going to do this? Well, I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. It's kind of a nifty trick, but it is kind of delicate. So, things we need: piece of copper pipe and a magnet. Take your copper pipe, and I used copper to do this because it's super thin and rigid. You can't use PVC because it's too thick, it takes up too much space. And same with steel, really. So copper is really about the only readily available metal that I can think of that's out there to do this with. And you cut it to the length of the block, and you just simply slide this sucker down. And it's also better to use a soft metal like this too. Like, I wouldn't use steel for the other reason of, if you care about these cam bearings, you mustn't. The steel has a better chance of messing up the bearings. This copper isn't going to hurt those bearings at all. You know, obviously a hardened steel camshaft rides on them. You know, even with a steel doodad of your design, would probably not hurt those cam journals. But, you know, it's just better to be safe than sorry. So, with this guy in here, a little catch pan, now we just simply, and I'm going to keep these in order as I go. So, start with this one. This one's pretty easy because I can reach it with my fingers. There are a couple other things to keep in mind when you're doing this. One, make sure your magnet goes long enough. You know, if you don't have a big enough magnet to reach all the way back in there, that's kind of a problem. Another reason for the copper or non-ferrous material, aluminum would work too, probably, if you found an aluminum pipe of some kind, but don't have to worry about that. As you get down in here deeper, as you guys can see, it's the last couple cylinders here. This gets to be a little tricky, but it does work. There is enough room to do this. One thing to remember, wait till you hear that thing hit. If you go too fast and you get your magnet in here too deep before you drop the tappet, then the tappet lands on top of your magnet. And that's kind of not especially easy to deal with. If you notice here, it's like as you pull these things out, they kind of rock like that and pick up and then drop back straight. And that's just how much clearance there is. So when you go back together, you can kind of, because when you get way back in there, now we'll play with this on the other end, but that's the fun part, is getting these things to stand up on the other end. And I'll show you how we put all this back together. We'll kind of be learning as we go. I've only done this once, and it was actually when I put these tappets in this motor for this cam. I'd actually completely forgot how we did this until I was just talking to my brother-in-law, and he was like, "Oh yeah, do you want your tray thing?" I was like, "What tray thing? I don't remember a tray thing." And he's like, "Yeah, the thing we used to do the tappets last time." I was like, "Oh yeah, totally forgot about that." Yeah, I guess I should probably change those now that I remember how to do it. So anyway, that's that on removing those things. That's all the little cool guy tips I got for you on how to get the tappets out of a 12 valve, 24 valve Cummins motor, or really any flat tappet type motor like this. A lot of your inline sixes have this kind of style setup on them. This would work on any of them. So, and it would probably work on just about any kind of camshaft that required this style setup. I know the LS's, the lifters go in from the bottom, not the top, like on a small block Chevy, old 350. I mean, I've never tried it, but I would think it would be possible. It might just work. So anyway, until I go back together, here we go. Got everything out. Got them all laid out in order here, 1 through 6. And they are pretty much ready to go back together. As I go together with them, I'm going to start cleaning. I'll take a rag and got some acetone in my sprayer here. Clean them up real good, do a little visual inspection on them, just looking for any kind of wear. Obviously we want to check the face of these tappets really close, and these are pretty much brand new. There's not a lot of mileage on them, on these tappets, so I don't expect to see any issues here. But we're going to inspect them anyway, and then we're going to take a little bit of some assembly lube, and we're going to drill that a nice big heaping gob all over this thing and smear it all over the place. And then we're going to stick it on our magnet, and we're going to take it over to the motor. It is important to remember you got to put these things in opposite. So you start from the right to the left. Number 6, number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1. The reason for that is these things get in the way if you're trying to put them back in. So, you know, if you're trying to slide this guy past all of these, well, they're taking up space that this guy needs to get in there. So it's a whole heck of a lot easier. I'm not saying it wouldn't be possible, but it's a heck of a lot easier to do this if you start from the hardest one first, the one that's the most scary, because you got to reach all the way to the back of that motor, which is like 3 feet long, with a magnet, and try to tip this thing up and get a little wood dowel pin aligned with it and lift it up in the bore, and do all that with 2 hands when you need like 6 and 2 heads to look in 2 different places at the same time. So this will be fun, and we're going to do this together. Hold on to your butts. Here we go. Except for it was helping me in some ways. The good news is this is the hardest cylinder. It gets better from here. Nope. A little doohickey helps. We want the doohickey. I think we might need another magnet. Dang it. So much for my clean rag. That's cool, just broke a magnet. And I'm missing the other big magnet I have, so I guess we don't get another magnet. That's cool. Hey, there we go. I think we're going to get her. Sometimes you just got to walk away from it too. Yep, there we go. So the key here is, kind of give you a visual. Shove that thing down just like this at an angle, and then when you get it past the journal that your last journal you need to get to, you know, you got the magnet up here on the top here, and it kind of covers this area and you can't flip it up, right? But if you can get this top edge to hook on the back side of this journal, then that gives you the ability to kind of loosen that magnet up. And this last time, the magnet came off and this thing just stayed propped right here, just like this. And then I came in and I grabbed the magnet down lower, or grabbed it with the magnet down lower, and just stood it right up. So. Kind of voodoo magic in a way that you can even do this, but hey, a win is a win. So now we're going to drop our dowel and find out where our dowel is at in relation to our doohickey. And I don't see the dowel, but I also can't move it. So we need to move back just a little. Oops, too far. What's going on here? I think I tweaked it. Oh yeah, I did. Dang it. Magnet. We're too far in. Ooh, I think we got it. Yes, we definitely got it. That, my friends, is another win. All right. We'll just take our rubber band. Wiggle this tappet up into its hole. And we proceed to lose our rubber band. Might be why people use zip ties, but hey, I'm kind of lazy. Actually, not lazy, I'm cheap. Rubber bands are cheaper than zip ties. may go to a zip tie for this back one, because pulling this up where I can reach it without the cam, like there was last time, it's kind of difficult. But we got it, I think. Oh yeah, we got it. All right, that is a win. All right. All right, there we go. They are all in. No issues, none of them dropped. A couple of the little tricks I figured out as I was going through this and kind of relearning how I've done it in the past. Obviously, this little extra tray here is kind of important so you can get this thing out, but they work great to clean them, walk over here, just lay them down in the tray, and then use my magnet to pick them up and shove them in. And the next really key superpower I figured out here was take your magnet and extend it out on the side of the block down to whichever tappet you're doing. And I was using the front of the handle here as a reference, so that when the front of my handle got to this journal thereabouts, I knew that the tappet was down where it's supposed to be. And then from there I could start my procedure to slide the thing back, hook the top of the tappet on the top of the journal here, and then pull my magnet off, and every single one of them stayed stuck to that journal when I did that. And then I could grab them just a little lower and pull it the rest of the way up. And then from there I would hold the magnet with my left hand and reach back and grab onto the dowel with my right hand. And if I was doing the back tappet, and then I'd push the tappet all the way back until it contacted the next journal, then pull it forward slightly, and then use this other hand to gently jiggle this dowel until I felt it engage on the tappet, and then push it down, make sure I got good engagement with my dowel, and gently lift it up. Now sometimes these things engage a little crooked and they don't want to come up. And really the secret there is just keep rotating this thing, turn it just a couple degrees, try to wiggle it up. Still wants to jam, push it back down, turn it a little bit, come back up with it, wiggle it up, and eventually you find a spot where it wants to line up and work, and you can get them up. Works really well. This is also another reason to cut slits in these dowels and not just hammer them on with a hammer. The slits keep a little bit of spring pressure on there and make these things kind of reusable, where if you just hammered them on, I mean, it's kind of a one-time use, and I would have had to make like new ones, and you wouldn't be able to hammer these things in if, without damaging that copper pipe and possibly messing up this whole procedure. So, the slits just really work well. So there we go. We are ready to install. I need to clean up the gasket surface a little bit still. I haven't done any cleaning yet whatsoever. I'm going to change bolt size that holds the cam sensor adapter. I'm going to go up to the next size up, so I got to drill and tap for that on the housing here. It uses the P-pump bracket thing, used a 5mm bolt. I didn't like that. With this big inch thick piece of aluminum and a sensor hanging off of it and an O-ring pushing on it, I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. So I decided I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade that piece. I did also confirm between the P-pump cam gear and the 24 valve cam gear, the cam sensor spot is in the exact same position as the cam alignment tool pinhole on the P-pump gear. So my cool handy dandy schmandy little tool here, guess what? That's going to work perfect. And this will also work on every 24 valve in the world. Just pull out the cam sensor and shove that little guy in there, and guess what? Can actually align this motor properly without getting crazy with dial indicators and stupid stuff like that. So that's a big win there. Pretty excited about that. So there we go. That is how to install tappets on a 24 valve or 12 valve Cummins motor. All right, timing cover is on. Still got a couple more bolts to put in. The bottom bolts along the oil pan there. Next is the camshaft. That's going in next. Just wanted to take a quick break and talk to you guys. I know everybody and their uncle knows about this, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. And that is the wonderful killer dowel pin. If you have any of these trucks, this is probably the #1 killer of gear train and motors out there. Like, this thing that little stupid thing, it rattles out, and then it gets caught in the gear train and breaks the end of the camshaft off. I've even heard of it breaking cranks in the past. You just don't want that. And it's super easy to fix, like crazy easy. And literally all you need is a little piece of metal like this. I just cut this out of some strap I had laying around. I built this one for the old 12 valve donor motor a long time ago, and I made it to fit so that it locks in here, and even if this bolt comes loose a little bit, it can't drop down, and this casting up here keeps it from rotating up and around. So the bolt would have to get really loose, at which point the bolt's going to fall out and the bolt will go into everything and blow up everything. So I don't really care at that point. You know, stuff's going to fail no matter what if that happens. So don't care there. But yeah, no, she's all done. Getting ready to finish this general area up. I should have the vacuum pump in here shortly. I'll get the water pump put back in, mostly just because I just don't want to have the hole open, and I have a new one, so why not throw it in. And I'm going to probably, after I put all this generally together, I'm going to put the timing cover on it without the new oil seal, and just in case I have to take something back apart later on. You know, I'm still messing around with my little plug here. Things like that, and you know, I just want to be able to take this off if I need to and not have that brand new oil seal down here that can't be messed with. So alright, the cam is in, and tested my tool. She works beautiful, and I guess you couldn't see anything, but hey, I can't get my hand in there any other. Oh, actually, maybe here. Haha. Yeah, I'm still blocking it with my hand, but it worked. It aligns it beautifully, and it definitely needs it, because if you come over here, you know, the cam alignment marks, you know, somebody else before me put these white marks in here, but you know, this tooth lines up in between these two circles, right? The single circle to the twin circles, which also, by the way, on this thing is kind of deceiving, because it's got another one up here that on the VP44 pump times to that. On the P pump, it doesn't matter at all. I put it where the heck I want, because there's no keyway on that one anyway. But yeah, kind of threw me for a loop, because I kind of forgot that trying to put it back together, and I tried putting that one down here at first, and I was like, man, why won't this thing go together? You know, it's like at the last journal, the last clunk, and it wouldn't go, and I was like, oh yeah, dumbass. So then I rotated it around, and I'm like, shit, it still won't go. Then I rotated it around a little bit, messed with it, and then ka-chunk, down and she went. And you know, that last little bit it needs is a couple degrees on the cam, at least. So it's a little more than a couple degrees. It's like 3 or 4 degrees. So I noticed. So there we go. It's in. It's looking pretty good.